You turn the key and nothing happens. No crank, no click, no struggle, just silence. No crank means the engine doesn't even try to turn over. You may hear nothing or just a faint click. Crank no start means the engine spins but never actually fires. Knowing the difference right away keeps you from chasing the wrong problem. By the end of this video, you'll be able to tell which situation you're facing, check your battery and terminals correctly, run a basic voltage drop test, and know when to move on to fuses, relays, or the starter itself. Later, I'll show a quick voltage drop check that finds hidden resistance regular battery tests miss. If you're uncomfortable with electrical tests or safety critical work, stop and call a pro. So let's start with the most common scenario, turning the key and being met with absolute silence. The silent dashboard trap. This first scenario is often called the silent dashboard trap. You turn the key and the dash doesn't so much as flicker. No warning lights, no buzzing relays, nothing. The car feels completely lifeless, and it's easy to assume some major electrical failure. In reality, this moment usually points you toward the very basics, the battery and the connections that carry its power into the car. Here's a straightforward first check sequence you can do right away. Step 1, switch on the headlights before cranking. Bright, steady lights suggest the battery has at least some charge and the connections aren't completely blocked. Lights that look weak or go out completely point to a battery or cable issue. Step 2, pop the hood and look closely at the battery posts and clamps. A crust of white or green corrosion is more than cosmetic. It acts like insulation and blocks current flow, sometimes completely. Step 3, put a meter on the battery. A healthy 12-volt car battery should read about 12.4, 12.6 volts at rest. Readings below 12 mean the battery is discharged, and close to 11 or lower mean it's very weak. Step 4, confirm how the battery behaves under load. One simple method is to watch the headlights while someone else turns the key. If they dim sharply or die, the system is failing under load, even if the resting voltage looked okay. If your checks show the battery is weak, don't assume a jump start and a short drive solve the problem. A drained battery often won't recover fully from the alternator alone. Have the battery recharged or tested properly at a shop or parts store to confirm whether it's still good. Skipping this step leads to the same problem showing up again the next morning. If corrosion or loose clamps are what you find, the fix can be simple. Remove the cables, clean the posts with a wire brush or sandpaper, and make sure the clamps are tightened back down firmly. Restoring clean, tight contact often brings a dead car back to life instantly. Many no-crank conditions are solved at this exact spot, and it costs nothing beyond a few minutes of work. The key here is not to get sidetracked by fuel pumps, sensors, or expensive modules until you've done these basic checks first. Failing to confirm power at the source leads to wasted time and unnecessary repairs. The battery and its connections are the foundation of the entire starting system, and they should always be ruled in or out before moving further. And if your battery and terminals all check out, but the key still brings silence, the next step is to look beyond the power source itself. Sometimes the issue isn't with the battery at all, but with the checkpoints in the circuit that decide whether that power is even allowed to reach the starter. Gatekeepers of the start signal. Now we move into what I call the gatekeepers of the start signal, the chain of components that decide whether the voltage from your battery ever gets to the starter. Each one is a potential stop point, and if any of them fail, the engine won't even attempt to crank. Here's the order you should check them in. Step 1. Check the fuses related to the ignition and starting circuit. They're small, but if one blows, it completely breaks the signal path. Pull the suspect fuse, hold it up to the light, and look for a burned or broken filament. If you're not sure, use a test light to confirm continuity. Replacing a bad fuse can solve what feels like a major problem instantly. Step 2, test the relays. Relays are tiny electrically controlled switches, and when they fail, the circuit can seem completely dead. Swap the suspect starter relay with another identical relay from the fuse box that you know works, like the one for the horn or headlights. If the car cranks after the swap, you've found your problem. Step 3, confirm the safety interlocks. In an automatic, the neutral safety switch ensures the car only starts in park or neutral. In a manual, the clutch switch requires the pedal fully depressed. To test, try starting the car in neutral instead of park, or really press the clutch pedal all the way down. If it suddenly cranks, one of these switches is faulty or misaligned. Step 4, check the electrical signal at the starter itself. With a multimeter set to DC volts, measure the large constant battery terminal on the starter. You should see battery voltage here, about 12.4, 12.6 volts. This confirms power is reaching the starter. Step 5. Back probe the small trigger wire on the starter while someone else turns the key to start. During cranking, that wire should briefly deliver close to 12 volts. If you see full battery voltage on the main post but nothing arriving at the trigger wire when the key is turned, the failure is upstream, the ignition switch, the interlocks, or the wiring itself. Step 6. Verify the ground path. Connect one lead of your meter to the starter housing and the other to the negative battery post. Then measure during cranking. You also want to do a voltage drop test from the battery post to the cable terminal. Anything more than about 0.5 volts indicates excess resistance. High resistance means the cable or terminal needs cleaning or replacement. Along the way, listen for audible clues. A single loud click usually indicates the solenoid engaged, but the motor couldn't spin either because of low current delivery or an internal starter issue. Rapid clicking means low battery voltage or poor connections. No click at all points toward a blown fuse, bad relay, failed ignition switch, or an open circuit. If you suspect the starter itself, there's a quick test many mechanics use. Tap the starter lightly with a tool while someone turns the key. If the car suddenly cranks, the solenoid or brushes are worn, and the starter will need replacement soon. It's only a temporary workaround, but it's a clear diagnostic clue. There's also one advanced but critical caution. If your multimeter shows the starter is receiving full voltage at both the main terminal and the trigger wire, yet the engine still won't turn even slightly, the problem could be mechanical lockup. That means the engine itself is seized. If you're experienced, you can remove the spark plugs or put a socket on the crank pulley bolt and try to rotate the engine by hand. If it won't budge, stop and call a professional. For most people, this is the point where professional diagnosis is essential. One last reminder, don't ignore anti-theft. If your dashboard shows an immobilizer light or your key isn't recognized, the immobilizer system may be preventing the start signal altogether. Always include that in your checklist before chasing deeper electrical faults. By following this sequence methodically, you take guesswork out of the equation. Each check either confirms or rules out a part of the circuit, letting you move toward the actual failure point instead of swapping expensive parts at random. And once you've walked through the gatekeepers, you'll see that what feels like a major mystery often comes down to a simple, overlooked cause. So, where does that leave you? Let's bring it all together in a clear order. First, identify if you have a crank no start or no crank condition. Next, check the battery and terminals, look at voltage, connections, and even how the headlights behave. Then move on to fuses, relays, and the safety switches that allow the circuit to complete. After that, test power at the starter, verify the trigger signal, and rule out bad grounds with a voltage drop test. Only then consider replacing the starter or investigating mechanical lockup. Most no-crank problems turn out to be simple fixes. You can check yourself a clean terminal, a fuse, or a relay. If this video helped, give it a like, subscribe for more straightforward DIY diagnostics, and drop a comment letting me know if your car is clicking, cranking, or silent. And remember, if you're not confident with deeper electrical testing or suspect mechanical issues, it's safest to leave that work to a qualified technician.